Hey guys, welcome back. We are playing Zeri today. She's a hyper carry and one of the most mobile champions that we have in the game. So what's unique about this champion is the fact that her auto attacks is on the Q ability. On normal AD carries you auto attack with your right click, but on Zeri you have it on your Q and it's a skill shot that can be body blocked. So you have to get used to that, and it's also part of what makes it really difficult to play. But she's also very frustrating to play against because of all that mobility she has. So you have this bar right below your mana bar, and that has synergy with your right click. So your right click is more used to poke people, and when this bar is full guys, then your right click is going to deal a lot of damage and it's also going to slow people. And so what you want to do here is that Zeri is a mid to late game champion, so if you can play it passive in the early game, then that would be for the best, but you can still poke people. So what you want to do is that you try to stack this passive bar up, and then you go in, auto attack people, and then you also right click them, so you get that empowered auto attack off. So your E is your mobility spell. It's a dash, and if you use it over walls, then this dash range gets extended, similar to how Zoe's bubble works. So that's pretty cool. And then Zeri's passive also, when you damage somebody with a shield, then you also get a shield based on some of the damage you're dealt. And if that's an ally who can shield you, whenever that happens, then you also get some bonus movement speed. So Zeri has really good synergy with champions that can shield her. And at the same time, she's also good against champions who can shield themselves, because she can use that to give herself the shields. The Q, with the short attack, it can be body blocked, so it's pretty difficult to maneuver around in the lane because people can hide behind the minion waves. But when you use your E guys, then your next 3 auto attacks will pierce through the target, so it's going to hit targets in a line. Of course, dealing less damage, but you can kind of use this to poke people even though they hide behind the minion wave. Besides doing that, it also works as an auto attack reset, so make sure that you do that as well. So you can abuse the extra damage that you can get. Your W is also a damaging ability that can slow, and if you also use this through terrain, like for example the walls and stuff, then this range will also be extended, so it also gives you some vision. And then similar to Zoe's bubble, this ability will also be extended, so you can hit people from long range. So Zeri is actually really OP right now. She's extremely frustrating to play against because of all that mobility she's able to get in the mid to late game guys. She's very hard to shut down. But at the same time, she's also very difficult to play, so you have to put in a lot of games before you can really master this champion. So I am showing how to play her in the mid lane, but the build and stuff is the same for AD carry, mid and top lane. You want to build her a bit tanky so she can survive those engages, because she has pretty short range that you can extend, of course. We're using lethal tempo, so how your Q works is that the cast time, cooldown and such, scales with attack speed. So the more attack speed you have, the better it is, and excess attack speed will also get converted into AD. So we're using lethal tempo on her as the main keystone, so when you have that fully stacked up guys, then of course it has synergy with your Q, giving it even longer range. And of course a lot of attack speed is extremely good on Zeri because of the synergy with your Q. So that's why we try to prioritize this stat a lot, and we're gonna get the Sheen as the first component. Your Q will proc it guys, so it works as extra burst damage. So now that we have the Sheen, it's like a small power spike. And by the way, you can use your E on the base right there, just so you can get back to lane faster. Some people like to keep it for this wall right here, but the reason why you don't want to do that is because when you use it at the start, then this E will be up when you're on lane. If you use it right here, then it will not be up, and then if somebody ganks you, then you're dead. So So Sheen, as you can see, your Q is going to proc it. That's really good because it helps a lot with your farming, also your bursting and trading and such, but also when you want to push down objectives. Just prioritize farming, guys, and when you trade with people, try to make sure that their passive bar is fully stacked up, and then you go in, you Q them, and then you auto attack them, you know, with your right click, because that is how you proc their passive bar. So you get this like zap attack, and what's really good about it is that it is not a projectile, so a Yasuo wind wall will not be able to block it. And that's the right click I'm talking about. And it deals insane amount of damage when the passive bar is fully stacked up. But you don't have to use it only when it's fully stacked up, you can also use it when it's not, but it's going to deal less damage. You really have to get used to farming with Q, like using Q as your main auto attack, and that's pretty much what makes it different compared to every other AD carry who has the main auto attack on right click. And then the fact that it's a skill shot and it can be body blocked. So try to prioritize farming, and now we have that ultimate up, so this is what makes it extremely mobile. First of all, so when you use it, then you're going to like deal magic damage in an area around you, and then you also get that ton of bonus movement speed, attack speed as well, and also deal bonus magic damage. And this ultimate is something that you can keep active as long as you keep attacking champions. So this is what makes it really frustrating to play against, because in the mid to late game she becomes extremely hard to shut down. Like really difficult. It almost feels like you're playing against the level 16 Kassadin with all that mobility she has. And she's also a hyper carry, and what's normal with hyper carries is the fact that they have weaknesses. Like usually they're really hard to shut down because they are immobile, like the Kog'Maw for example, and the Twitch as well. They don't really have any super strong self peel, but Zeri has insane amount of damage and she has insane amount of mobility as well. So this is why she has so much prio in pro play. She's like pick and ban every single game, and also in high elo. And she's also really fun to play because of how unique she is. So it's definitely a champion that I can recommend that you pick up. So this ultimate, even though it deals burst of magic damage, you don't have to use it for the damage. The way you want to use this is when people try to chase you down, you just proc this ultimate, abuse that bonus movement speed and attack speed to like kite them, or when you want to chase people down. Because you're going to become so mobile. And remember that you can also reduce the cooldown of your E when you attack enemy champions, like with basic attacks and your abilities as well, so that's also another thing that makes it really mobile. Do remember that your E works like a soy bubble, that when you use it over terrain and such, then the range of this dash is going to get extended. So you can use this to escape ganks, and you can also use it to like cut off enemy escape paths or when you want to gank somebody. Your E does have a pretty big cooldown, as you can see, so if you do use it to dodge an ability from the enemy champion, then do be careful for the next 20 seconds or so, because you'll be vulnerable to ganks. You don't have as much mobility. You do have that ultimate, but you need to get it going first. So be careful when your E is on cooldown. The ultimate actually has a pretty high cooldown in the early game, but as you get ability haste and such, then it's going to be a lot lower. So you'll be able to spam it in the later stages. This is a champion that shines in the mid to late game. You want to be able to get your core items like the Trinity Force, the Titanic Hydra that gives you insane amount of AoE damage, as well as the Runan's Hurricane. When you do have these items, guys, that's when you really start popping off. And your ultimate also buffing that Q really makes it deal insane amount of magic damage. That's the thing with Zeri, is that she has a lot of magic damage in the kit, so even though people are building a lot of armor, it doesn't really counter her as hard compared to a lot of other AD carries. So it's a champion that can get away with building tanky items while still dealing a ton of damage. As you can see, that ultimate right there, also proccing that chain of lightning right there, dealing a lot of AoE damage and allowed us to get that double kill. So now we are back into the game. Sitting on a lot of gold right here, so you want to get that 24 as your first item if possible. It's really great synergy with Zeri, gives her all the stats that she needs. So now that we do have the 24s, next item will be the Berserkers, the boots. You really want to get that 24s as fast as possible. Of course, Sheen has really great synergy with her Q, her main auto attack, because it procs it, allows you to trade a lot better, farm better, and also push down towers a lot faster as well. So you have a pretty decent wave clear if you combine your Q with your E, because it will make your next 3 auto attacks pierce. So it hits multiple targets, but you don't really have that good wave clear until you have the Titanic. When you have that, that's when you can start really matching people in the mid lane. You can also use your W, guys, while you're in your E animation. Same goes for your ultimate. So that's something really cool you can do. For example, when you want to gank somebody, you can use that W while you're dashing through the wall right here. Because that W is going to slow people, so it kind of helps you like chase people down without letting them escape. She is really fun to play though. Just keep in mind, guys, she's pretty weak in the early game, especially in the mid to top lane, because you don't really have a support. Like in the bot lane, if you have a support with great synergy that can like shield you a lot, like a Janna, Karma or something, they could really abuse that extra bonus movement speed you get from the passive. But that's not really something you can do in the mid lane or top lane, because you will be alone most of the time, so be careful and play around the power spikes, because when you get to the mid and late game, that's why the fun part really begins. Do remember to like combine your main auto attack, which is your Q, and then the secondary auto attack, which is mostly used to poke with, which is your right click. Combine that when trading, so use like Q and then right click, and preferably you have a fully stacked passive as well, so that right click deals a lot more damage. You'll see you can pop your ultimate just like this right here, guys, and just gonna absolutely shred people. Just look at that mobility we're getting, that's going to get a lot better. And you can keep this ultimate active when you fight champions, because that is going to extend the duration. So it is really hard to shut it down. Sitting on a lot of gold right now, getting the Berserkers, and then we also get the Tiamat, and then get some HP as well. So you can build into the Titanic Hydra, so now we have some wave clear as well, and that's absolutely crucial in the mid lane. Remember, this is a champion that already has a lot of damage. Her problem is being able to stay alive, and that's what this build pretty much solves, because it makes her extremely tanky while also giving a lot of damage. Do remember that the build is the same for AD carry, mid and top lane, and you can also build a crit. I like to do a mix of both, so I get some tanky items early on, like the Triforce, the Titanic Hydra, and then you can go into carry items like the Rune and Hurricane. You can also get the Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, and so on. It really depends on how the game is looking, who you're playing against, and so on. That W can be pretty difficult to land because the cast time is pretty high, so if people have boots and so on, then it is pretty easy to dodge. So it's mainly used to like cut off escape paths, so like if you see somebody running away, then you place it in the direction they're running towards, and if they end up running into it, then they're going to be slowed, making it easier for you to like catch up. Really make sure that E, guys, you also use it like when you fight somebody. Really make sure that you use it as an auto attack reset as well, and do remember that it's going to pierce. So you can hit multiple people with it, and then when you also have the Titanic Hydra and the Runans, you're going to have insane amount of AoE damage, especially when you combine that with the lightning from your ultimate. So this is how you can use that E, guys. So actually it makes it pretty good at ganking as well, just because of the engage distance she has. Like, she's able to gap close insanely fast. And because she can gank all the way from the river, it also makes it pretty difficult to like ward against her ganks. Now we have a big power spike, so we got the Titanic Hydra. So this is another massive power spike for Zeri. You get a lot of tankiness, you get a lot of mobility, and you also have a lot of damage. So this is like the point where you really start carrying the game. This is of course a champion that can also be played as AP, because she has a lot of AP scaling. There's also a champion that can be played sort of like a burst mage. And then she also has a couple of different builds. The build I showed right here, or the build that prioritizes almost only crit chance. So it's a pretty versatile champion that also works in 3 different roles. You can also jungle if you want to, but I do prefer playing her in the lanes. It's crucial that you also really make sure to use that right click when the passive bar is fully proc, because it does deal a lot of damage. Like, it deals insane amount of damage, and it also slows when it's fully stacked. So that's also important, so you can like make sure that people constantly stay within your auto attack range. And look at that Q range when you synergize it with the lethal tempo. A fully stacked lethal tempo is going to give you absolute insane auto attack range. And if you looked at how I used that W right there, I still hit the Ash even though I was pretty far away, guys, and that's pretty much how you want to like catch up to people. That's an AD carry that really shines in those extended fights, where she's really able to get that bonus movement speed stacked up and really able to kite people around, you know, constantly run away while auto attacking people. Because almost no champion in the game will be able to match this mobility. This is what makes people really hate playing against her, and also why she has such a high ban rate. And then of course she's even more fun to play when you're playing as champions with shields, because she can use the shields for herself. As I said early on, she's going to convert, when you damage somebody who has a shield on them, she's going to receive a shield for herself depending on the amount of damage she has dealt. That's a pretty long range LeBlanc chain, but it did not matter. As you can see, this damage and mobility, no one can escape even though they have flash up. Like, it's really difficult to get away from this champ. And this mobility is also part of why she's so fun to play. But do keep in mind, she's really hard to master as well. Like her Q, her main auto attack can be body blocked. So really have to know how to maneuver around in the laning phase, for example, because you don't have all of this AoE damage that you get from Titanic Hydra, Runant and so on. So you have to know how to like move around the minion wave and such, so you can still hit the enemy champion without them constantly hiding in the minion wave. Now always remember to abuse that right click. You don't have to use it all the time, because your main auto attack is your Q. Your right click is used to poke. So when it's fully charged up, that's why it deals a lot of damage. So make sure that you combine this with your main auto attacks. Also do remember that that slow you get from your charged right click, guys, that also scales up. So at maximum rank, when this ability or like this right click auto attack is fully leveled up, it's going to slow by 50%. So that's insane. Now we have the Runan's Hurricane. So now we have even more AoE damage, so we're just gonna fly around in the fights, guys, and then we're just gonna damage everybody. Now we also need some armor pen because the puppy is getting pretty tanky. Even though she is building a lot of armor, do keep in mind that Zeri has a lot of magic damage, so we don't really care about that much. But that ability haste, extra damage, tankiness, all in one item really do make a big difference. You still want to play her like a normal AD carry, you want to stay in the backline, and you want to constantly, you really want to force those extended fights, because that is why she is strongest. That's why she's able to really stack up that movement speed, you know, kite people around, hit multiple people at once with all that AoE damage, stay in the backline and just hit whoever is closest to you, like a normal AD carry. And if you're extremely fat, then of course you can do whatever you want to, but in a normal game, guys, play her like a normal AD carry, constantly kite people around, use that ultimate as soon as the fight starts, because that is what gives you all that mobility. You want to make sure that you have this up so you can kite people around, you can escape if something happens, and you can also chase people down. Look at this mobility, it's absolutely insane. Champions are not able to match this DPS. And because we're not building any lifesteal items, that is the reason we're using Legend Bloodline in the precision tree, because that means that we still have some lifesteal. And of course, Exhaust is the reason that I survived right here. So that's a really good secondary summon spell that you can use on this champion, because it makes it a lot easier to survive. Not only for surviving, but also those 1 vs 1 fights in general, and also to make sure that people don't escape. Like, they're not going to escape you, but if you're fighting like multiple people at once, then this can come in really handy. Also do try to take away the jungle camps when you can. You have AoE damage, so you can clear out the waves really fast. Especially when you have that big power spike with the Trinity Force, the Titanic Hydra, and the Runar's Hurricane. That's why this champion really comes online. You pretty much transform into a hyper carry with insane mobility, so you kind of get rid of that one weakness that most hyper carries have. You can see if you do get CC though, it is going to get a bit difficult. When you pop that ultimate, you really want to make sure that you're still able to auto attack the enemy champion, so you can really stack it up. Because if you just pop it out of range, then this happens, and if it attacks CC you, then you'll not get to proc it, and then it's just going to expire. You really want to make sure that you can fight an enemy champion nearby, so you can keep this ultimate active. It's just important to know that you had to put in a lot of games into this champion. She's pretty unique. She has a very different playstyle and laning phase as well. And it's a hyper carry, of course. So if you're used to those champions who just have to right click all the time, then it is going to be pretty difficult, and it will take you some time before you can really understand how to properly play Zeri. Now we have the cleaver, guys, so we have some armor pen, and we also have some really nice stats that makes us tankier, ability haste and such. But if they're not building tanky, you can also go for something like a Phantom Dancer into Infinity Edge. Because crit is also something she synergizes with. First of all, she's an AD carry, and of course it also works for the basic attacks. So crit is also something you can build, but if you're doing so, then you're going to be pretty squishy. So do keep that in mind as well. But this is pretty much how you play Zeri, guys. She's really fun to play, so it's something I can highly recommend. You just have to understand that you probably had to put in a lot of games before you can really master her because of how different she is compared to every other AD carry in the game. But this was how to play Zeri. I hope this was helpful. As always, thanks for watching and see you all in the next one.